Hi, Stephen.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good.
Hi.
What's left to be is doing well.
Oh, looks like you've tackled something pretty significant there.
Yeah. The your dog has a fan in this household.
Oh, yes. She, she's
Gibby's fallen in love.
oh, she's so sweet.
Was
I
that Doriandra?
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes.
Oh my God, yes. Gibby says.
oh yeah,
Is she a Labradoodle, Doriandra?
no, she's a golden retriever.
Oh, she is. She's just a really pale one.
Yeah, she's a cream version, and she's just the sweetest little thing. It's been
Oh, they are. They are. I had labs, but then my last one was a golden retriever black lab mix. And she
ooh,
was the best dog.
oh.
I want a dog so badly.
Sounds like she's gone to the Rainbow Gate.
Oh yeah, 16 years old. It was before I left Eugene in 2005. So
Oh,
yeah, it was a while ago.
yeah, such a sweet girl.
Oh yeah.
It's been intense. I feel like I'm back to parenting again, which is just
Yeah.
um so hopefully she'll tolerate this. She's on like a kind of a sleep schedule, which helps keep things sane relatively. So she goes down at 6, but she was really hyper today. So hopefully I won't have to hop off for a second and go tend to her. Hi, Thea.
Guys, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, but I'm here. I,
Beautiful.
I've I've been sending letters to the city council
Oh,
and our neighbors and talking to businesses.
yes.
So it is something I want to bring up tonight because it regards health and safety.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. Once we get everyone on, feel free to
You
leave.
just tell me when.
Okay. Yeah, our big topic today is businesses, so this is good timing. So, hello, Miss
All right.
Julie. Are you back from Mexico or are you still vacationing? I'm assuming you're back because who would jump on when you're
I am back.
Okay.
I would not, sorry, I wouldn't be sober enough to attend the meeting if I were in Mexico, to be honest. And they're 3 hours ahead, so
Okay.
it'd be kind of late there too.
Uh,
We got back on Valentine's Day.
Wonderful. And
So
then,
this is my first, yesterday was my first day back to reality.
oh, I'm sorry.
I know. Well, it's gotta happen, I gotta come back and make money so I can go on vacation again.
Exactly. That's why we work is to
Right?
travel. So,
Pretty much.
oh, I'm so glad you came tonight.
I'm excited to be here. And I plan to attend tomorrow as well.
Sure.
I haven't come to those meetings, but there's a lot that I'm interested in and seems like good stuff for me to come and hear about.
Yeah, the board meetings they're complex. We do a lot of work, but we definitely unveil some like projects that we're working on. So we'd be pleased to have you. And then you all probably know there was some confusion, but with the Valentine's Day falling right on our general meeting, we rescheduled that to February 28th. So we'll be
Right.
business as usual, but just a odd date. So we
Yep. I'll be at that as well. I was just a little mixed up about the 21st and the 28th, but got it
Mhm.
straight.
Yeah, that was kind of a very atypical situation, but I actually am going to be out of town that night, but I'll join in on Zoom. So
Cool.
yeah. All right, folks. Well, why don't we get started? I think we all know each other, right? You know Stephen, Julie, right?
I do. I got to meet Stephen in person for the first time at the disaster resiliency event, but I've seen him on Zoom plenty of times.
Perfect. Yeah, that's right. I have a great photo of you too. So yeah, of course you met. Yeah. So Okay, and then we have Joanna with us tonight. Joanna, do you want to introduce yourself and let folks know? Because I can't recall, I think,
Well, I'm really sorry. I would love for people to see my face, but I have not been able to figure out how to do that. I see a button that says stop video. Well, but how about start video? So I'm not sure what's going on there. Can you hear me?
we can hear you, yes.
You
That's,
just can't see me.
no, that's a shame.
Well, I mean, it's not a horrible shame. I got an email today. I went over to Springfield to the Bob Kiefer Center, and I was getting a free exercise class card, and my husband was with me, and the woman at the counter couldn't figure out how to get the printer to work, and I said, "Well, look, don't worry about it. We'll get it later." So I got an email from her a few minutes ago, and she said something about, well, if my son wanted to come by and pick it up. No, lady, he's my husband.
Oh, it's funny.
Yes, I'm a little bit older than he is, but not old enough to be his mommy.
Very good.
And I told Jerry, well, I could be insulted, but right now I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would let you see me, but I don't know how to make that work.
All right, well, we'll press on and
And
perhaps.
yeah, but that's not an introduction, is it? I decided that it would probably be appropriate for me to join this group. One, because I've always been interested in MCOM, especially after I had my CERT training and then got my tech license and general license for amateur radio operation, and thought that being a member of this group and making ham radio part of the process would be great. I've been attending the, I'm going to say it's the Northeast neighborhood. They have meetings once a month about emergency communication. And then there's a fan group over in the Friendly neighborhood. And because not a whole lot in that area has been happening in the Whitaker, I was hoping that we could tie in with those two groups so that we end up being a really highly functional group when and if the need comes.
Yeah,
then-
that's very wise. Yeah, we value your input because indeed, I think that's really the missing link in all of our planning is how we communicate, and it's complex. I mean, our last ice storm was really a kind of a bellwether of that, where we just there was an interesting kind of hub going on where people that had electricity still could communicate, and Julie, for one, was a great example. She got a message from our neighbor Susan, who's a longtime community person, and so Julie was able to get over and help her. But
Mhm.
like the more complex things, or simply the little things, like in Susan's case that Julie helped with, just kind of property management. If there's a real crisis and people need medical help, I think it's really, or larger help, even beyond that, that's where the ham radios really come in. So we would so value your input on that.
Well, I'm here.
Okay, I'm glad you're here. All right, well, I think, why don't we jump into our topics, and then maybe we could come back to you, Joanna, and it would be great to kind of hear more about your structure and how you think we could integrate what you do into the kind of groundwork of what our planning is. Would that be okay?
It would be, I definitely need to learn more about what you are already doing before I jump in and offer suggestions that either you don't need or don't want, or that are irrelevant. So, it's my turn to listen.
Okay, thank you. Thea, do you want to lead with what you, because we wanted to talk about businesses, but I think I'd value also what Thea wanted to mention first, and then that'll kind of lead us into my thinking. So go ahead, dear.
So I have been hearing from a lot of businesses about the trash, the needles, the fecal matter. We have a couple business empty buildings that people are trying to rent that people are just living in front of, and fires. The other issue is huge fires. So I have talked to Mike Cavan, who is the fire chief. He's basically said, if there's a fire next to a building and if it's propane, it's allowed to be there. If it's not propane, then they will respond. It's a little scary to me. I know. It's a little scary because Jungle Fowl is one of the buildings that I'm getting calls at 6 in the morning and text messages from people saying, what do we do? There's people living underneath the overhang at Jungle Fowl, and they have a full-on fire going, and it looks like a pretty good party going. And my phone's blowing up, and I can't turn my phone off because of my mother, so it has to stay on.
Right.
So I've had a lot of those calls in the last 2 weeks. I've had a lot of calls with the city about not picking up trash, so they might be telling a camper they need to move, but then they're leaving the trash behind. And I don't know, reach out to whoever's passing out the green tents and say, hey, if you're going to pass out tents, can you come pick up trash too? Because that seems to be the major issue, is the trash and the needles and the fecal matter. You know, we get in the Whitaker, everybody needs a place to sleep, but it's really starting to affect some of our businesses big time. Next Step had some huge issues where clients couldn't get in to drop off materials to be recycled because they had a huge camp set up in front of their driveway and cars physically couldn't get in.
Mhm.
And so it did get moved, but how to help our businesses in this area. So I am reaching out to the city again. They are doing right now there's a vote on some things that are happening on the city for safe sleep sites to continue that program. And also about parking violations and overnight camping. So I don't know what they're going to do with that. We'll see what their policies are. But we're kind of in crisis in our neighborhood.
I would agree.
And Bruns is really struggling.
Yeah, I'm afraid we'll lose them.
I am afraid we're going to lose them. They're exhausted.
Yeah, he
The
mentioned to
amount
me,
of employees that are getting hurt from shoplifters, and
The loss of the apple would be a terrible, terrible loss to the neighborhood. I don't know how we can help them, but it would be a terrible loss.
so I continually talk to them and please stay. And then I get a hold. So I am meeting with Chief Skinner on Friday. I'm going to take him on a drive through the neighborhood because I haven't done a drive with him in probably 6 to 9 months. And I need him to see that we need a little more policing. We need cleanup. And then the other thing that's happening is the businesses. A lot of the businesses I've been talking to are interested in a business alliance, a business committee. They can't speak out because if they speak out, they get hit with really nasty stuff.
right.
So that's why they call me, you know? And so they're interested in a business alliance. And some of our really big businesses in our neighborhood are like, yeah, I think it's time. So I don't know how the health and safety committee could how we can work on it. I'm also in touch with Santa Pac about getting trash cans. I'm just trying to get trash cans in our neighborhood at this point.
Right.
Because the LTD trash cans they're overflowing. They don't get dumped enough. And the issue with trash cans is you have to have them dumped, because if we don't have them dumped, when someone is high and they see something shiny, then they got to go through all the trash and throw it out. So that's a whole nother issue. So I am in talks with Santa Pac to see what we can do about that. So, and I'm going to give this all at the general meeting next week
Okay.
as well.
Thank you. And thank you, Thea, for your constant tireless efforts to address these matters, because so much of this falls on you because of your community advocacy, and I know it can be challenging, but I'm so glad you're able to kind of point those things out to Chief Skinner and have that one-on-one with him. It's a big
Yeah,
deal.
and I want to reach out to Waste to Taste again about the pantries, because I think that they're changing how they're doing it again, because the trash from the pantries has been over the top again, you
Mm,
know? And it's a lot of plastic wrap, plastic lids. It's not good for our river system. It's not good for our streets. It's not good for the animals. And a lot of food waste again. So they might have, so I'll try and reach out to Jennifer and say, hey, have you guys changed your portion sizes? Can you get word to whoever's, because there are a lot of different churches that fill the pantries too.
Right.
So can we get word about your portion sizes? Because that helps when they're smaller.
mm.
So
Okay, well,
it's tough.
yeah, it really is tough. I mean, I would value your input on, what we've been trying to do with this emergency planning or the disaster resiliency program, because one of the very first things I wanted to do with it was incentivize businesses to be part of it. And I haven't had any response from anyone, and I just can't figure out why that is. I'm guessing it's just that business owners are exhausted from the conditions that you've already explained. And so I think that they feel that, well, if we open up our business space for an emergency hub for community, we would be at risk of more loss or more issues. And so, I mean, I'm just kind of hoping you guys have some thoughts on how we can change that, or, I mean, but what you're saying is kind of like there's such huge fundamental issues in front of what we're trying to do that those have to be addressed first.
Right. Have you talked to Market of Choice, who owns Venue 252?
I have not. Yeah, I haven't
Because
reached.
that would be a huge, I mean, that's a big place.
It really is. It's weird because I understand that incentivization is kind of the key with a business, because if they're experiencing a shutdown because of a crisis, they're losing money, right? So I'm going after this huge grant, which I'll run by you later, Thea. It's a huge Department of Health Services grant that's really hefty. And it's kind of like, well, do we take some of those funds and say to businesses, okay, if you sign up to be our go-to for an ice storm, or let me pop this in the chat actually, because I've showed this to you all before, but we've had so much happen since then. This is the form I tried to get businesses interested in, and it just fell kind of flat. Let me see, let me show you. Okay, there it is. And I can also share it on the screen if that's better, if folks have trouble accessing chat, or are you all okay with that? Okay, sounds like everyone's okay with that. Like I'm beginning to wonder if we should include in this, we would give you funding if we can get this grant. And that may incentivize them to say, yes, we're going to sign up. Venue 252 could be a shelter in place. It could be so many things. Yeah, Julie, what are your thoughts?
Well, what I see from businesses close to me is a lot of burnout.
Yeah.
Territorial just suffered a break-in. They were closed for a couple weeks doing some renovations. And at the very end of the renovations, somebody broke in and, among other things, stole a bunch of financial paperwork. So my friend Lisa there, kind of the front of house manager, reached out because we're so close and said, we were robbed last night. And among the things they took were a lot of important financial papers. Could you please look around your property? Look. We were
Right.
trying to recover these papers. Territorial would be a fantastic shelter in place location. They have a large open indoor space,
Mhm.
but they've had such incredible lack of response from the city, such terrible lack of help with that eWeb property right across their street. I feel like they're really jaded and frankly angry.
Mhm.
And I can't blame them. I can't blame them. I have not approached them about a shelter in place situation, but what I imagine their response would be is, why would we open our space to
Mhm.
be further damaged and potentially robbed
Mhm.
in the event of an emergency when we've had no support from the city, and what we're getting now is damage and robbery and harassment of our patrons. We have been there, and Lisa's little. She's a female, she's small, she's between 55 and 60, and a lot of the patrons are in that age range as well. And Steve has been the guy to get up and say, what you're doing is not okay, you need to get out of here right now. But they don't feel like EPD will support them,
Mhm.
and they get nothing from eWeb or the city with the disaster that can happen across the street. So it's a tough road. If I own the business, I might feel the same way.
Understandably so. Yeah. Yeah, I see an interesting connect or an interesting kind of disconnect actually between patrons that might need support or unhoused communities that would need support during a crisis. And I don't want to further marginalize our unhoused population because their vulnerability is extreme compared to ours, right? But it almost feels like that separation would incentivize people to help. But in an emergency, it doesn't matter who you are, where you live, what you have, your resources are incredibly challenged. So it just seems to be this Gordian knot of, yeah, go ahead, Thea. What you thinking?
Sorry, I was looking at the survey. I don't know
Mhm.
how to unwait. Oh, I got it off of there. This is too general for our businesses right now, in
Okay,
that they're already in crisis.
yes,
They're trying to keep their doors open.
right.
And so when you're asking the specific question, could you provide water or food? That's real specific. But when you're asking the general question, would your business provide support for one of the more of the following situations? And you listed the wildfires, the smokes, whatever. It would need an example of what kind of assistance are you asking for? Because I do know that Bruns Red Apple,
Right.
oh, took in food because they had electricity when the storm went out. So Bill and Nelson's and everybody that lost electricity on the other side of the street brought all their food to Bruns freezers and refrigerators, and they kept the food until they got electricity back. So they didn't lose any food,
Mhm.
you know. So our businesses are helping each other. I mean, they're really good about helping each other. They also delivered food to people for free
Mhm.
that were shut in. So they already do that automatically. So
Right.
to say on top of it, can you do something
Is this
else?
thing, yeah. And you raise a really valuable
So,
point.
I mean, I think that if you're looking for a space to house people that don't have electricity or to house people that don't have shelter, that's a specific question and a specific ask. So that's
Right.
why I say venue 252 or maybe even next step, because she does a lot of work that way.
Okay.
The mission opened its doors during the ice storm, which they don't normally do. So
Yeah, it almost feels like this survey is so granular compared to what our businesses and community do in crisis. they just kind of naturally do things that work for them. So I personally just feel like scrapping this and working more about how we can kind of prepare the individual. So rather than try to lean on our businesses in crisis, and I think that's what we're all feeling. Would that be correct?
Mhm.
Julie, go ahead.
Well, I think we might have better luck asking businesses to help people shelter if there were a mechanism in place to ensure that they would leave. If you've welcomed in perhaps a high percentage of unhoused individuals to shelter in your winery room, just using territorial because I'm familiar with them, or venue 252, how are you to escort them out? And what assurance can we give them that they will have support in seeing them out and cleaning or repairing any damage? It's a big ask.
It's a huge ask. It's similar to like what the complexities of the Egan warming shelter entail. I mean, all that structure has to be in place. So, right. I think that survey I built is really almost naive when you break it down like that. You're right. There's so many contingencies that only a business owner would think about. And that's a huge part of it right there is what do we do after? So, yeah, that's a tough one. I guess then it kind of does go back to just, I mean, there's going to be so many different contingencies with any type of emergency. If we have flooding, everyone's going to have to go anyway out of the neighborhood. So perhaps just our kind of pulling our focus back to preparing individual families is really what we should be thinking of. Okay. Yeah, Thea?
Well, and I saw that, when we had the ice storm, the Egan centers had people out because I had to go pick my nephew up that Friday morning when it first hit. And there were out going through our neighborhood, gathering people that were not in shelter. So focusing in, I mean, there is a mechanism in the city to help the people that are not in shelter, but there's not a mechanism to help our housed that are not prepared. And there were a lot of people that weren't prepared. So how do we help that? I think that would be a better focus. And of course, you can always help somebody that's unhoused if you've got houses. There are people that are there were people that took people in. So
yes. Yeah, I think so often of Julie talking about how she dug or got the person and her neighbor that was iced inside her car out of the car into a hotel. Like that's the Bravo work that really matters. So go ahead, Stephen.
The other category of businesses that we need to establish some kind of connection with is the property owners. When we did the Map Your Neighborhood in our end of Polk, we found that the number of apartment buildings was very difficult to incorporate into the Know Your Neighbor program. And we need to make sure that each apartment building has some kind of preparedness program to prepare their residents for disasters and incorporate or have an interface between them and us so that it's a coordinated response that includes not just single family homes, not just unhoused people, but also the apartment buildings. That's a big challenge and big issue. We never actually got round to putting anything on with the apartment buildings because COVID hit after we had done our single family homes and the tiny house village at the end of the street. They were incorporated. They stepped up and said we could use their community meeting room as the muster point for our end of Polk, which was really cool. Yeah. And we got more response actually from the Emerald Village than we did actually from individual homeowners. But we're planning to go back in and do a refresher for our end of Polk. But we have not really reached out to apartment building owners to see whether they have stuff already in place, or if not, whether they're planning to get stuff in place. And we can, if necessary, volunteer to come in and do presentations to the residents, if that would help. So there is definitely a back and forth, and a communication needs to be established in that direction.
Hmm.
Stephen, do we know who owns the building across from the old bakery?
I don't. Go ahead, Julie.
So I'm working on taking over the Map Your Neighborhood program, or the Know Your Neighbors. I'm not sure. We might be rebranding that because MYN is maybe not supported by the city any longer. From Megan.
Yeah.
I've done some preliminary training in terms independent with a video and some book training. This coming Saturday, I think we have our first training from the disaster resiliency event we did in the fall. And I'll be shadowing Megan with that. And then I plan to follow that up with doing my block as maybe my first independent presentation. And then I'm interested in finding ways to do active outreach rather than waiting for people to come to us.
Mhm.
I'd like to, and it's easy for me to do in my close blocks where I know people,
Mhm.
but perhaps a mechanism where we could outreach and solicit, hey, this is a thing. I'm willing to run the meeting. Could we plan this? So anyway, it'd be
Okay.
great to get that going more.
Um, let me show you something real quick, Julie. I think I have a solution for that. Let me see if I can share screen.
Oh.
The Whitaker Council always puts out a physical mailer.
Ah,
I'm working on that right now with our social media manager. Can you guys see my screen right now?
yes, I
This
love
is-
it.
This is going to be a huge part of the mailer that will come to everyone soon. And I've got a Map Your Neighborhood section right here.
Mm-hmm.
So if you like this text, I think we'll go ahead and send this soon in the mail. I think I want to put a deadline of it for the end of February. So we're kind of,
Mm-hmm.
Christy and I are working on it right now, but I just figure if we get any information or folks that are interested, it'll come to the council and then we'll pass it straight to you. So
Yes.
Do
By
you-
the end of February, I should be qualified to do this on my own.
perfect.
I know that Megan has other obligations and she's kind of looking to take this off her plate.
Yes.
And the video that comes with it really walks you through it. And by shadowing her this coming Saturday and then doing one in my own block and hopefully maybe having her come and shadow me,
Mhm.
I think I'll be ready to help people.
Thank you. Bravo for doing that. This is great. So we hope we'll gather more interest in this, like one of these things in everybody's mailbox. So great. Stephen, did you have a thought?
One of the bits of feedback we got back from Megan is that Gibby and I were probably the only people that really followed through on the training that we got from Megan, but maybe there were others. The big thing we learned from it is nothing works by leaving a piece of paper with information about a meeting at somebody's door or in their mailbox or wherever you want to leave it. The only thing that really works is going to talk to people face to face, tell them about it, talk it up, and get them to come basically as a favor to you. And so how to do outreach at the micro level is very important. Now, if you're in daily contact, it's somewhat easier. but, and 4 years ago, we really didn't know anybody in the neighborhood. So it was a learning experience for us as new arrivals. But when we do our repeat, we will go to door and talk individual to people rather than giving them notes, telling them about a meeting.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I did print out a lot of literature for Megan for our first disaster resiliency event. Maybe we could duplicate those and then give them to individual folks, and you can do that. Just go to door. Would you like me to replicate that order and we'll get a big stack for everyone, or?
We will definitely need more materials to do the refresher, because
Yeah,
for some people it will be the first exposure that they have, because they're people who have arrived since we did the last training. But and even those that were here then probably don't remember whatever we did. And certainly with the apartment buildings, the turnover is fairly intense, and even the tiny house village has quite a lot of turnover. So there are definitely new people all the time. It's you can't really stand still and hope that the planning that you've done is going to work when we have need of it.
okay. All right. Go ahead, Joanna.
One thing, Julie, you're going to be coming to my neighborhood on Saturday with Megan over to I always call them Bill's New Day Bakery. So we're going to be going. Gary and I will be going around talking to whatever neighbors we can find in our neighborhood, probably tomorrow, to talk with them. And then we're going to leave literature if we don't capture them at home. I live in one of those neighborhoods where neighbors by and large don't visit with each other. Neighborhoods are like that. We have a number of renters, and I think that might affect it. We have a new neighbor who just bought the house across the street. So I'm as new with some of my neighbors as my neighbors are with each other. Not sure why that works out that way, but we'll see what happens. So Julie, I'm glad to see your face. I'm sorry you didn't see mine until Saturday, but yeah, you're going to be presenting to, I'll call it my group. And Doriandra, I saw the literature, the flyer, whatever it was you just posted.
Yeah.
Could I get a copy of that? Because I would like to adjust the flyer that I wrote up a little bit to include what you said in that one, just in case when I go to my neighbors, I don't get to meet them in person. Some of that language, I think, would be useful for them to decide, yeah, I do want to go to that meeting. I do want to meet my neighbors, because we went through the ice storm. And you know, the way the grid is set up here is my street, I'm on Fifth, so the block around me, Fourth on the south side and Fifth on the north, we didn't have any electricity. Fourth on the north side and Fifth on the south side, they all had electricity. So we had one of our neighbors come over and he said, can we charge any of your batteries? Can we get flashlights? So there was that much communication. So I know it's out there, but yeah, if people can think back to the ice storm, that's going to help them. Yeah, I better meet my neighbors, because we don't know when it's going to get really nasty.
Right.
So really glad to see you. Sorry I can't do the same for you, but I'll see you on Saturday.
Yes, I'll
And,
meet you on Saturday at New Day.
Yeah, and Dorian, do you have my email address? Yeah, you must.
I sure do. Yes, I do. And Joanna, the flyer that I'm working on will actually come to you in the mail soon. But in the meantime, Megan Kemple created some kind of literature that we were able to pass out at the first disaster resiliency event we had where we first met you.
Mhm.
So I'd be happy to email you that because that's a really good introduction and kind of a quick read. May I do that for you?
Sure, sure.
Okay.
Now, that will not include then what you just put up, what you just posted a few minutes ago.
It'll have similar language. Yeah,
Okay.
it's the same thing, but it's actually much better because like Julie said, it's more, or Stephen pointed out, it's not just some thing saying like, get into this. It's actually like what it is. So I will send you that tomorrow. And then you and I can correspond more if that's more what you're looking for, or if you need me to give you a little something else. Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
Perfect. Okay. And to that, this has been so interesting. I realize we've talked way over our agenda time, but I wanted to get into chatting with y'all about our next event. We should start planning this. And, our first event was so lovely. We'll have more grant funding coming by the end of this month. So I'll have a nice new budget that we can work with. We can basically really replicate what we did before, but expand. So I'd really love input on how we felt about our first location. Should we move it? Should we go to Scobert Gardens this time? Should we create a continuity with Washington Jefferson Park? We should just kind of start thinking about this and get a date in mind. Go ahead, Julie.
I liked Washington Jefferson Park, and especially in the springtime when weather is
Yes,
unpredictable.
yes.
I thought that space worked well. It was a bit of a wind tunnel, but
Mhm.
other than that, I thought it worked wonderfully.
Okay.
I feel like the event for a first time was here's Winston.
Oh, hi, Winston.
Was very
Good boy.
successful. And as far as date, I don't know. We're looking springtime. Is this like a April, a May thing?
I'm thinking, well, that's the great part about Washington Jefferson Park is if we choose a weekend that pours, we're covered. We got it
Right.
made. So, we have grant funding now for this disaster resiliency program that will take us all the way to June of 2025. So, as the budget I've given to OHA was approved and we have certain parameters within our budget. I think I've given us, we have $3,500 to spend on more go bag supplies for folks. We've got $1,400 for graphics if we need kind of like neat laminated cards that people could refer to about emergencies. We've got money for food trucks or food vendors. We do have money again for Shift Community Cycle. They'll be able to come in and do their training about how to adapt trailers. Let's see, the budget, it's huge. I mean, in scope of what we can do, it's pretty much all the things we had done at the last one, a little bit amplified. So my suggestion would be that we kind of spread it out. Maybe we choose 4 more events and we start one soon in spring, and then we do one maybe late summer, and then another one in November, and then one more in 2025. So we'd have 4 big events that this time we won't be so scattershot, like, hurry, we gotta figure it out like we did with our first one, but we'd have more lead time. Get a band again. Thank you for that, Julie. That was excellent. Really advance more speakers. I wanted to invite Amy Bell. She's our local one of our CERT trainers that teaches disaster psychology. We'd have more like seminars, or not seminars, but learning kind of modules. So yeah, we've got a lot of possibility to do it and a lot of budget. So we should just start thinking
So,
forward.
so maybe one of the negatives about Washington Jefferson was no separation of space for seminars.
Right.
Like we weren't able to separate speakers versus music versus booths.
Right.
Campbell Senior Center?
That might generate a lot more attendance as well, because they have their own kind of group of folks that are very active in the community, and that might be a wonderful target population.
They have a nice
senior-
outdoor space. They have a nice indoor space.
They sure do. Yeah, they have a
Um,
wonderful room. We just went there for the neighborhood association city meeting, and it was amazing. That's a great idea. But do you feel like we lose traction if we change location? There's something so good about continuity, with
mhm,
location. What do you
this
think,
is true.
Ian? You've got a pensive look on your face there. What's your,
I was looking at disaster preparedness month so that we would at least do one event during that month. And
oh,
it's September, so thinking ahead,
oh,
one of those
excellent.
dates should be in September.
Thank you. That's fabulous. That's excellent. Okay, we'll put that on the map
was
for
just-
sure.
There's a whole calendar. They tell you what to do each month by the government.
Okay,
And so they have different focuses. There's a whole calendar for 2024, something
Okay.
each month. I'll send you the link later.
Thank you. Perfect. Okay. Well, we'll do that. We'll do one in September then. That's really
Uh,
good.
Um, Skinner's Butte Park has Lamb Cottage. So
Has,
there's a Lamb Cottage,
right.
so it has an indoor-outdoor space.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, the separation, oh, go ahead, Stephen.
The Campbell Center seems a long, long way away from the neighborhood, with so many people wanting to walk there or just jump on their bike to come, or the skateboard to just drop by. I think I would be happier with something closer to the center of the neighborhood. But that's just not knowing anything about the facilities at Campbell Center. I'm speaking entirely from geography.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay. And that puts us back to, again, continuity, where if it's in the same place every time, we create a rapport with the place. And it's also helpful for us because we know how to set it up, we know how to take it down. So, speaking to Julie's point about the difference of like the speakers area and the music, I think for our first run, we did pretty well with that. We just, Boxcar Figaro was great. They're like, okay, we'll stop playing for a while and we'll do the speakers. So given that the event is so small, I think that we did that very well, in other words. So we could just kind of follow that track.
would it work to have more tents set up this time for a delineation? Because it won't, we have more time to set up. So at
Exactly.
the other end of the court, could more tents be set up there? Canopies or whatever. And I'm also wondering, Cider Works has a huge place, but a lot of it's upstairs too. So that's an issue for people with mobility.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I mean, the park is just such a great place. It's a public space. It feels, I mean, I for one was thrilled with the how it worked out. I mean, just to have that huge space and
It is a nice way to put positive action in that park.
that too.
Your other thing is you could try the rose garden with the gazebo if you need a separation of space. But if it's summertime stuff, they have a lot of weddings and things like that. So
I have a funny story. I rented the gazebo there when I produced the opera for Eugene Opera. And we put Madame Butterfly there in the rose garden, and it was a complete disaster because up in the top of the gazebo, there was this hornet's nest, like a yellow jacket hornet's nest. So as the opera singers were like, oh, like all yeah, they came out and they were just biting everybody left and right, and people were screaming. It was bedlam.
Did they feature the flight of the bumblebee?
Yeah. So I'm never renting that again for anything. So just saying, but thank you, Thea. Those yellow jackets. Ugh. Okay. All right. Well, it feels like we're all pretty much on board with choosing Washington Jefferson again. That feel good to everyone? Okay, great. We'll push on with that. We're gonna add September as the event for sure. So I'll kind of like work with our budget this week and propose to you all next time we see you, like a better calendar that will include a September event for 2024. And let's see, I want to send Joanna some extra map your neighborhood information that Megan developed. And anything else? We've got about 8 minutes left. Go ahead, Stephen.
I just wanted to report proudly that I've got through the first 8 units of the CERT training and had immense trouble getting through the spurting blood in that section and the nail in the woman's chest. It took me it was like driving a vehicle with ball tires through deep sand. I had to leave it, lie down, recover from my vasovagus response, come back and try again. It took me about 5 attempts to get through that section. But once I'd done it, then I felt great. But it did indicate to me that I could be a liability on any CERT team just because the way I faint at the moment's notice. But I've just got to do the final exam, but I'm doing that after I look through the CERT manual, which I haven't really spent much time on yet. I just did it from the presentations. But it led me to think that there seemed to be an opportunity when you were talking about graphics for some co-branding of the CERT team PPE. So the helmets could have a CERT logo and a Whitaker logo, likewise jackets and anything else could be co-branded. So we might want to keep that in mind at some point. I mean, it may only be me, but I think Gibby is working through also. But it would be nice that if we do manage to assemble some CERT teams, we have some kind of branding on them. The other area for possible future budget items, one of the biggest issues on earthquakes is older homes that are not connected to their foundations. And in the house that I lived in California for quite a while, I crawled underneath and did that myself and put cripple walls and stuff. But I don't think I'm up for that at this point. It would be nice to establish connections with contractors that are able to do that stuff, negotiate good rates with them and maybe do some kind of subsidized program for homeowners to have the underside of their homes inspected for earthquake preparedness and maybe not pay for any work to be done, but just assistance with the inspection of the underside of people's homes. I think that is something that could have a huge bang for the buck in terms of fewer people having to getting their homes red tagged after an earthquake if their house stays on the foundation. So we might want to bear that in mind as a possible investment opportunity for grant funding and how to use it locally. So under home inspections and co-branded PPE for CERT teams. That's my 2 contributions to possible future budgets.
Thank you, Stephen. I've written them both down, and the latter one you had is really interesting. I'm just beginning to research and will write a new grant, which is coming out of the Oregon Health Department of Services, and it's about creating safety in homes, and that may be a subcategory. So I'm going to really dive deep into that because it would be a really large grant for WCC, and we'd be able to pull contractors from the Whitaker area to stabilize and renovate houses that's a brilliant idea. I'm going to really get granular and see if I can figure out if that's grant compliant. So thank you. And I will also check with our CERT division leaders about that co-branding. If anything, we could just use some of our budget to implement the CERT gear with maybe Whitaker patches if they're not able to combine it. But thank you, that's fabulous. Go ahead, Julie.
I think that's a fantastic idea too, Stephen. My house is 100 years old and I'm pretty sure not bolted to the foundation. So that would be a great thing for me to look into. I started the CERT training when I got back from vacation, and holy cow, is there more than I thought there was. I made it through 57 of the 75 slides of the very first unit. And so I am seeing that I have a little catch up to do and I need to get on it if I'm going to attend the March trainings, which I intend to do. So there's a lot of good information there, but wow, in my mind, I had the idea that I was going to do that in about 2 hours, and clearly that's not the case. So
It's a
work
lot.
on
The
it.
number of, you look at the number of steps in each unit, you see, oh, there's only 75 in this one. And then you think, well, I'm at 68 already, I'm almost there, and I'll just do one more. Then it turns out to be a 40-minute video.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot, but once you get through all that, you'll so enjoy the actual physical training. It's wonderful. I'll be there to support you guys, and it's really, you come out of there just feeling like wonder person, you know. So okay, well, goodness, folks, Joanna, I hope that, is there any last words you want to give us? We went right up to the last minute.
I see that. I don't have any words. I have two questions. One, I'm hearing about all these videos and hours of learning CERT stuff, and I'm going, wait, what? I went through CERT training twice. The second time, oh, it's got to be 10 years ago now. So I think that there's an enormous amount of new stuff that I know nothing about. I heard nothing about nails and chests. And so I need to find out, and I need to find out who to contact so I can get hold of some of this information so I can learn too. The other thing is, I don't know about having somebody come and look under my house to see what can be done to stabilize it, because I live in one of those houses with a basement. So I would need to know what's possible to stabilize a house with a basement other than spending more than my house is worth.
Right.
But my house is also a good 100 years old.
Mm.
So I don't know where to turn for all of that.
Okay, well, Joanna, I'll send you the CERT info I have for how to sign up and all the new information. And you're absolutely right. I was a CERT member back in 2010 in another state. And when I moved home to Eugene years ago and I got re-certified, the same thing happened to me. And I brought my giant folder to the class, and the trainer was like, throw that out because now it's this big.
Yeah,
Instead of this big. So I understand, but I'll send you those links so you have some of the new stuff, because it's much more comprehensive. I think as our world became more dangerous and climate change and terrorism, it like the manual got bigger. So
got bigger. And I think with wanting to incorporate some aspect of ham radio,
yeah,
that knowing more of this current CERT information would be very, very, very useful. So
perfect.
I'm looking forward to that.
All right. Thank you all so much. I want to let you all get back to your evening. This was super helpful, and I'll see you all in 2 weeks. Thank you for all you do. Okay.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you, Dorianda.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.